Hello racers, and welcome to Mini-B On-Road, Season 2, Episode 6. In Season 2 of Mini-B On-Road, we are trying to get this, what used to be an RTR Mini-B, on the podium in the Maritime Championship race. So this series will have 7 episodes. This is Episode 6, and it is crunch time to get this car prepared for the track. Now in Episode 5 we were able to get on podium in 3rd, but in this video what we want to do is challenge for the lead. So we got our work cut out for us, mainly in testing and tuning, but I do have a couple products that I want to put on the car. At the end of the Mini-B 5 race, we had a big push at the end of the straight, which we got to fix today. And the other thing that we noticed was this left rear tire was spinning, and you can see it's burnt way down compared to this side. You can see that the center of the tires wore out, and what I think is happening is there's some kind of binding maybe on this side of the car or in the transmission. So we'll have to take that apart and see. So those are the two things we wanted to fix. See if we can get some more steering at the end of the straight, high speed steering, corner entry, and fix the handling issue in the rear. One thing that I want to do is install these aluminum rear hexes so I can really tighten down the tires. With the plastic hexes you got to leave them a little loose, but I noticed there's a lot of slop in the rear tire, and that's mainly due to leaving the hex loose, and you can see that it's moving on the axle a little. So I want to be able to turn those down. So I'm going to use these aluminum rear hexes. So that's not much to see. The next thing I want to do is my ever elusive search for a 1.7 spring. And I might have found it with these are the silver mini sprint car springs, medium. And I think these might be 1.7. Let's dig into the bag. Check it on the spring tester. So we know that the base springs are 1.3 pound-inches. And I was looking for something a little stronger. The gold springs are they're 2.3. And I kind of want something in between. So I was hoping that Losi made a car called a Mini Sprint. It's based off the original Mini T. So these springs are a little bit longer than the front springs of the Mini B. Let's just try them. Are these the elusive 1.7? No, they are not. They're 2.16. They're a little softer than the 2.3 that the gold ones are. 217. So these are not the springs. So tried to find those elusive 1.7s. We bought quite a few spring sets, the stock set, but these are not those. Okay, so I will not be using them in today's race. What I will be using is the standard Mini-B fronts, which are 1.3. I'm using the drag shocks because I find this is the original RTR shock. And you see how the bottoms out? Mini drag allows a bit more, it's a shorter shock body, gives a bit more suspension. Okay, so with that said, let me install the hexes, and I want to take the rear end of the car apart, see if I can find any binding issues that might have caused this tire here to spin the entire way down the straight and lose all my forward drive. And while I have the rear end apart, I want to address an issue that's come up with the C and D blocks. Is that I noticed that a lot of play has happened. See in the arm? A lot of play has happened, which I think is contributing to some odd handling, getting some rear steer happening. So maybe just the arms are wearing out, or it could be the C and D blocks, the pins wearing out. So with that said, let me take a few minutes and do some work on the car, And we'll come back, do a quick review, and then head to the track. See you in a few minutes. And we're back from actually a day of racing. So there wasn't a whole lot going on in the build part of the video, so I didn't want to waste time looking through that. So I tidied up the car, as I talked about before, by really doing some work on the rear end of the car, and then took it for a day of racing. Now before I show the racing video, I just want to recap as to how the progress went. We got the car actually on storage right now while we're talking about it. So what I did in the rear of the car, took this all apart, took the diff out, and what I found inside the MIP diff was one of the diff rings seemed to be slipping on the outdrive backer, and I just reset that there to give it a bit better seat, and that seemed to fix the problem of one side diffing out as it went. And these are the tires that I used on the race day, and you can see that they were pretty much even. There was a little bit of diffing out around corners, but that was to be expected. It wasn't roasting the tire the whole way down the straight. So when I had this apart, I took a look at those rear D-blocks, and what I found was the pills were pretty wore out, and it caused a lot of slop in the arm. So I did go back to the original stock 3-degree rear toe block, and actually I think that might have helped with handling for the day. Now I also took apart the tires off and inspected the bearings in the rear hubs, and then I found the rear bearings in the hubs are pretty ratchety and notchy. I oiled them up, but they were still a little bit dirty or ratchety. So what I've done is I've ordered some new ones, and we'll install those for the next video. This one on this side was actually worse, which is kind of funny because that's the side that was diffing out, and it should have been the opposite one. But regardless, we discovered that, and we'll have some new parts in for the big race. After that, I did switch to the Mini-B, stock Mini-B tires with the JConcepts Ellipse in the front. Found that to be a very good combination. And you'll notice a kind of a funny wear pattern on the front, that the left tire seems to be, bald towards the center, where the right tire has a lot of tread. And what makes it an even bigger mystery is the car had the track this week had a lot of left-hand corners, so I would have expected the right side tire to get worn, but it was the left. So I'm thinking maybe we might have too much toe out, and that's causing a bit of Ackerman, and this tire may be dragging around the corner. So we'll take a look at that for next video. And just to recap, the front of the car pretty much untouched. Drag shocks, 40-weight shock oil, 4 millimeters of insert to prevent the droop. No roll center shims on the front. In the rear, we have the standard 3-degree toe block. Still put in the new C block for 3 degrees of anti-squat. Still have shims on the outside roll center. And that is it for the setup. So, with all that said, let's go check out the running video of this car. I mean, we're down to the brass tacks. Let's see how it does on track. And here we are on race day. You can see my car, the little yellow car with the white wheels, in the far top left. I TQ'd the event this week with 3 good qualifiers. And off we go, and you can see that there's been great improvements over the last couple of weeks. You can see that we got their speed back, and handling is pretty good. So first and second, you can see in the top right, first and second, we were able to break away from the group a bit. So at this point, we are somewhat working together. There's been a few challenges made earlier on, but at this point, we're just driving. You can see that as my car leaves the gray line, sometimes it actually pushes a bit. And just a moment ago, second place bobbled and hit the corner, and I got a little bit of breathing room. But when you get some breathing room, the next thing that's going to come into play is the pack of cars ahead of me. As I'm trying to get away from second place, you can see I'm slowly gaining on the group of cars. And as I get through the group, that was my car that got tackled there. And at this point, I would have fallen to second place, I believe. Yes, I believe that is the yellow car, and then there's a red car just ahead. So now at this point, I'm in second. Once again, you can see under the bridge, I'm getting flipped over. There was a bit of a collision with a green car under the bridge. So just a few racing incidents that you have to be careful of when you're in a race situation. So far the car's handling well, but just getting trouble with traffic. Let's just follow the cars around. At this point, I believe first place is following me. You can see that at this point, let's pick it up as I go under the bridge, and it's third, and then it's first. So first is, I'm just about to go a lap down. So I'm struggling, trying my best to keep on the lead lap. And you can see that the first place car is following that red car with the white, and he just happened to bobble there, and again in the center of the track, requiring a long marshal. So first place now is right ahead of the yellow car. So because of some traffic there, I was able to get caught up due to marshalling. So we can watch this little competition here, and you do notice that he is pulling away slightly. I've gone into overdriving the car a little, trying to catch up, and as you overdrive, you're not as smooth around the track, so I've been really pushing hard. We're catching up to some traffic now. First place is kind of sandwiched in between two cars, and just there leading onto the straight. You can see that first did bobble, and we're exchanging the lead right there with first just a foot ahead of me. So the race has really snugged up. We're keeping the composure, keeping calm at the wheel. So through the infield, bottom right, coming up through that chicane and onto the straight. Some traffic, they're just slowing me down slightly, but first place also had to pass them. So we're still about a straightaway length apart. Yep, so what I attribute the better handling with is the different tire combo that I was using. Previous races, I would stick with the tires I started the day with, and for better or for worse, I was just giving the tires a try to get used to it. But this time I used the JConcepts in the front and the stock Mini-B in the rear, and that seems to be a really nice combo that works well together. Okay, so now that we're getting into the race again, we can see first place is catching up to traffic. So the yellow car, a white car, and then first place is just going on to the straight. I made it through traffic pretty good in that part. Let's pick up the race again. So I'm going through the infield, going up onto the straight, and as I enter the straight, the first place car was going under the bridge, so that's about a straight and a half. Now first place is catching up to some back markers there, trying to get through traffic, which is always dangerous to try to push your way through the traffic. First place just got a little bit of a bobble, and now he's rolled in the center of the track, which has allowed me to cruise by while he's being marshaled. So at this point, the yellow car is in first with the red car in second as he's traveling through the infield. And there's only about a minute left, so this is looking very confident that this could be a win. So starting from pole and pushing for the win, this is exactly where we wanted to be. We prefer to have a little bit more handling to really pressure for the lead, but the car is good enough to be a contender in this race.
Second, fifth, 10, 6, 9, 3rd, 8, first, 7, 4, 6. So
right now, under the bridge, my car, clear, air ahead of it. You can see in the behind, the first place is struggling to get through traffic. There's collisions. And that is the end of the race with Mini-B taking first place. So this was a much better race for challenging the lead. So if you like this type of thing, subscribe to be notified for the final race in the series. And comment some tips for more steering without traction rolling. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video.